boys and girls. I know that you have gotten used to seeing me in the language arts room. Now I am in the mental strategies room. We will be working in this room for some time, trying to develop your mental skills so that you'll be able to solve problems more quickly. If you enhance your mental skills, that will take away some of the time that you will spend calculating, and it will help you to enhance your problem solving skills because some of the calculation will be done automatically. Today we'll be looking at finding 1.5 or 150% of any number. Now a half of any number is 50% of that number. So a half of 4 is 2, 50%. A half of 2 is 1, that's 50%. 1 time any number is that same number. So 2 ones, 2, 3 ones, 3, 4 ones, 4. So 1.5 of any number or 150% of any number is that number plus a half of itself. So 1.5 of 4 would be 4 plus a half of 4, which is 2. So that would be 6. 6 would be 1.5 or 150% of 4. Let's practice 1.5 or 150% of 4. Firstly, we find 1 times 4. 1 times 4 is 4, and a half of 4 is 2. So 4 plus 2 would give you 6. Therefore, 1.5 of 4 is 6, or 150% of 4 is 6. Let's look at 8. We are trying to find 1.5 or 150% of 8. Firstly, 8 times 1, 8, and a half of 8, 4. So we add 1 times the number plus a half of the number. 8 plus 4, we end up with 12. That would be 150% or 1.5 of 8. Okay, so these are mentals. It's easy to find 1.5 or 150% of any number. Mentally, you just half the number and add what you get to the number itself. So look at 12, we say 12 plus a half of 12. A half of 12 is 6, 12 plus 6 equals 18. We look at 9, 9 is an odd number, so inevitably you're going to get a fraction in your answer, because when you divide an odd number by 2, you get a fraction. So we can say a half, or we can say 5/10. So 1.5 of 9, a half of 9 is 4.5. So 9 being 1 times 9, so we said 9 plus 4, 13, plus a half would be 13.5. Let us try 7. 1.5 of 7 would be 10.5. Because you would divide 7 by 2, you get 3.5. You add that to 7, you end up with 10.5. Finding 1.5 is basically the same as finding 2.5. It's the same pattern. You multiply the number by 2, then you add a half of the number. Let's look at the number 40. We say if we want to find 2.5 of 40, we said 40 times 2 would be 80. Then we add a half of 40, it would give us 100. 50 times 2 would be 100, plus a half of 50 would be 125. Have yourselves fun finding 1.5, 2.5, or anything and a half of any number. Start building your mental capacity, start practicing your mentals, ensure that you're doing your tables, because you really need those to be able to function effectively in your mathematics exam.